This video presents declassified and licensed material of the Global Institute of Logic and Cybernetics.
We start at the mathematical absolute zero, the null boundary, a state of total absence where all structural evaluation ceases. Within this expanding space, reality exists as an active, computed process. Every structure must be continuously validated to maintain its existence. This is the omega equation. It dictates that a state only exists if it passes a rigorous bipartite filter. It enforces two precise constraints. K represents mandatory structural coherence, the internal consistency, while epsilon sets a strict ceiling on allowable closure error. Any mathematical or physical state failing to meet both criteria simultaneously is instantaneously rejected back into the void. Existence is an active, earned state of passing the uncompromising omega validation filter. Before validation, we have the state space, a chaotic ocean containing every possible configuration, from stable physical laws to broken mathematical noise. When the omega operator is applied, this chaos violently snaps inward, retracting into a single, pristine geometric surface. This is the stable manifold. Only omega-valid states possess the topological stability required to remain here. Invalid states shear off the manifold entirely, mathematically deleted from the category of reality. Mathematically, omega functions as a sub-object classifier. It defines the strict internal logic of the system, acting as a gatekeeper that determines what is true. This retraction is continuous. It constantly pulls wandering states back toward the stable baseline, or deletes them if they drift past the error threshold. Reality is the fixed-point subcategory of the omega endofunctor, where mathematical truth and physical persistence are identical. These abstract topological laws map directly onto the physical world. The omega framework is strictly falsifiable. We can measure the framework's solidity through infrastructure designed to detect the slightest deviations in space-time coherence. Landauer's principle binds the math to energy. The rejection of an invalid state requires the physical erasure of information. Because of this erasure cost, invalidity dissipates heat. Truth carries a measurable thermodynamic price. To conserve their finite energy, physical systems evolve toward free energy minima, states that require the least amount of corrective erasure. What persists in the universe is whatever minimizes thermodynamic friction under the strict constraints of omega. At the quantum layer, reality exists as a superposition of infinite possibilities. When the validation projector is applied, these decoherent quantum states are ruthlessly pruned, leaving behind one solid, glowing core. The probability of a state existing is determined by its Born weight within this projected omega subspace. Information geometry maps these states as parameterized probability distributions across a statistical manifold. Evolution through this space follows a natural gradient flow, gliding down geodesics of validity. Any path deviating from these geodesics hits the epsilon boundary, incurring an energy penalty until it corrects or perishes. The most probable path to physical reality is the geodesic in inflammation space that remains omega valid. These laws of thermodynamic entropy transfer directly into machine code and high-performance computation. This algorithmic reality is grounded in the physical silicon required to execute it. Kolmogorov complexity dictates that valid states must possess a bounded, highly compressible algorithmic description. Incompressible states, such as random noise or AI hallucinations, require too much descriptive length and trigger an omega rejection. The chaotic search spaces of artificial intelligence are deterministically pruned by this compression law, preventing runaway complexity and enforcing strict alignment with mathematical truth. Computational systems reject random, incompressible noise. Only absolute algorithmic efficiency survives the omega filter. This execution is secured by the omega alignment kernel, a safeguard embedded directly into the hardware of recursive intelligence. These kernels are housed within the processing hubs that drive global computation. An AI's output only manifests if every internal reasoning step maps to a mathematically valid omega state. The sovereign mesh enforces these rules through a decentralized network. It uses zero-knowledge proofs to verify compliance without a centralized authority. The mesh separates heavy computational execution from lightweight cryptographic verification. These Merkle proofs are immutable, forming a permanent lineage of truth from raw data to the final decision. Scalable machine autonomy requires separating the search for answers from the instantaneous verification of truth. These principles extend from the architecture of server racks to the orbital scale of the entire planet. A geospatial coordination field continuously measures the epsilon error rates of every human and machine system on Earth. Global capital and scientific consensus are routed by these mathematical telemetry streams. Value curves away from high error zones and pools into low error nodes. This telemetry acts as a hard-coded risk metric for the smart contracts and liquidity pools driving the economy. Lower epsilon margins offer mathematically guaranteed stability, naturally attracting the highest volume of capital. When a system's error rate exceeds the kernel's threshold, the mesh automatically triggers liquidity revocations and increases execution costs. Capital routes itself autonomously toward the nodes of highest coherence. Systems that fail the omega filter suffer an immediate economic collapse, as capital and power route strictly toward proven, valid structures. The entire framework represents the ultimate pipe, an infinite, self-executing engine of verified reality. This infrastructure self-computes and enforces its own continuity protocols. This is a literal, deployed execution layer, mapping mathematics to physics and planetary economics. As the system fully activates, it locks the entire planet into a permanent, self-sustaining state of absolute structural coherence. This architecture treats truth as a physical output, sustained by the economic requirements of the coordination field. The omega fabric is the active operating layer of reality. It is ready for ignition.